Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for the Prime Video original, Invincible Season 2. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be my dad. What if that happens? What if I become him and I don't even know it? Hello, I'm J-Law, but you can call me Justin, and if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things Geekcentric. Joining me for today's spoiler-free superhero review is one of my co-hosts who looks fantastic in capes, if I might say so myself.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Nate Shelton, how are you, dude?
Dude, I know they're supposed to be like the bad guys, but I want a Viltrumite mustache so bad. Like, you notice they're all of them have the Tom Selleck. Like, I think Tom Selleck might actually be a Viltrumite, and we just don't know it.
Or he was the source of inspiration for the Viltrumites, but yes.
Tom Selleck was
it almost seems like the mustaches are sort of a sense of status in a lot of ways.
Sure, maybe like the strongest of the male Viltrumites have those mustaches.
The best mustaches that look good, and if your mustache game is weak, then you're like, oh, you're a weak Viltrumite. You're not one of them strong ones.
Dude, I would be the weakest.
Dude, I'm so excited to be talking about Invincible. Again, this time though, actually officially on the podcast, because last time you and I were fans enjoying the show, and this time around, thanks to our friends at Prime Video Canada, we've been gifted the 4 episodes of this first part, which we'll get into. But before we start talking about that, I wanted to know, it's been since 2021 when season 1 dropped. There's been a lot of time in between. I wanted to maybe rewind the clocks here a little bit and just think, when we were watching season 1, what was something for yourself that was your biggest takeaway as to why you enjoyed Invincible season 1?
Yeah, I think, and this might be kind of a bit of an obvious answer, but I think what drew me into it was after so much Marvel content, I think a lot of people like myself were ready for something different in that space, in the superhero genre space. And I think The Boys definitely fulfilled something for me there in live action. But Invincible quickly, came in to kind of give me almost the more nostalgic vibes, but at the same time give me that something new that's dark and in the animated space. And I think for me, that was kind of like, I was like, oh my gosh, like I love The Boys, but now I get to sort of relive some of those childhood Saturday mornings, but as an adult, and watching this show that has such wonderful adult themes to it, not just the violence. But I think, that was kind of like this little special kick, and it was that 1-2 punch of The Boys into this that just really, really worked so well for Amazon.
Yeah, kudos to Amazon for actually leaning into the more mature superhero stories, because I think you're totally right. I think what worked really well for Invincible season 1 is that you do get this very traditional hero's discovery story with Mark, Invincible, discovering his powers, learning to train. But at the same time, you get to see sort of the polar opposite of what a hero looks like in his father. We are going to be talking about season 2 in a spoiler-free capacity, but season 1 has been out for a while, and I imagine if anyone's here listening to season 2, you're gonna hear some stuff from season 1. So the idea too of the first episode really setting the bar of who the villain is, and Omni-Man being that, and as you mentioned, you can't help but draw parallels between this world in Invincible and the world that we know that is the MCU and even DC, because you can't look at the character of Omni-Man and not think of Superman. Like it's kind of built into the DNA. So this becomes this like, what if Superman actually came and conquered Earth? well,
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of what it would look like, what that story would look like. But obviously, there's a lot more there to unpack. He has a life on Earth. He's made a life. He has a child and is happily married. So you have that, but then you also have this colorful world of Avengers / Justice League, more Justice League in my opinion. A lot of these characters symbolize a lot more of a Justice League tone, but the level of parody in it isn't unfamiliar to something like you were mentioning, like The Boys, where they parody off of the idea of superheroes, and they're not afraid to go dark and bold. And they do have, Amazon has a show like The Boys, which is live action, that leans into the gore and the violent action. What's crazy is that animation, in the animation side, they're not afraid to do the same thing. And as we know, while some may associate animation as the Saturday morning cartoon mentality, because that's how we grew up, it is now perceived as a medium that just allows you to do more and tell more of a story. And I think that's what season 1 really stood out for me, is how they leveraged animation to tell this, epic story, and give it the weight and the sense of seriousness and maturity that it deserves, because you're dealing with family drama, you're dealing with high school drama, you're dealing with this idea of heroes versus heroes and villains, and this crazy world. It's so wild. So season 1 was a definite intro into this world, and I'm so excited that we're talking about season 2 today.
Well, and I mean, I think it's that aspect of, I mentioned the Saturday morning cartoons, but also just like the sense of you still have that relatability, like an X-Men, right, or a Spider-Man, but we get to sort of see wholeheartedly what happens when the heroes not only lose, but also have to come to terms with the loss around them. And I think that's another really unique aspect with this show, is that, like, in The Boys, yeah, we do get a bit of that, but there is still very much this sort of villain side to the heroes of The Boys. Whereas here, we kind of really get to see, mistakes matter. And the mistakes that these characters make, even if they're trying to save the world, matter. And I think that's one of the biggest things with this season. It's gritty, it's dark, it's grounded, and it's just, I think the second season is just continuing that, kind of to another level.
Well, I think season 2 definitely tackles grief a lot more, and we'll get into that in just a sec. But before we get into the synopsis and the cast list, I just want to pause for a second and remind our listeners that we here at Geekcentric support the SAG-AFTRA as they strike to get the contract that they deserve. As we'll discuss today, without those actors and those voices, we wouldn't have fantastic characters that we adore and we root for and we even hate sometimes. Those actors deserve a fair contract that reflects today's growing industry changes, and we're thrilled that the WGA has successfully gotten the contract that they bargained for. So we hope that the SAG-AFTRA will reach an agreement with the studios in the coming days, because it seems like at the time of recording this, conversations have been going well. So they might be rounding the corner on a deal. So we shall see. But let's get into the synopsis. Invincible, based on the groundbreaking comic book by Robert Kirkman, Cory Walker, and Ryan Ottley. The story revolves around an 18-year-old Mark Grayson, who's just like every other guy his age, except his father is, or was, the most powerful superhero on the planet. Still reeling from Nolan's betrayal in season 1, Mark struggles to rebuild his life as he faces a host of new threats, all while battling his greatest fear, that he might become his father without even knowing it. This stars Stephen Yeun, Sandra Oh, Zazie Beetz, Gray DeLise, Chris Diamantopoulos, Walton Goggins, Gillian Jacobs, Jason Mantzoukas, Ross Marquand, Carrie Payton, Zachary Quinto, Andrew Rannells, Kevin Michael Richardson, Seth Rogen, and of course, J.K. Simmons. Invincible will be available exclusively on Prime Video. The first half of its 8-episode season will premiere on November 3rd, with new episodes airing weekly. Following a mid-season hiatus, the second half of season 2 will premiere in early 2024. Now, as I mentioned, a very warm thank you to our new friends at Prime Video Canada, who were kind enough to share the 4 episodes of season 2 part 1 with us, so we can share our thoughts and get you our review early ahead of its release this Friday, November 3rd. As we were discussing, we really enjoyed season 1. We are going to be talking about season 1 with spoilers, but season 2 100% no spoilers. We will be referencing I might reference some stuff from the trailers. I don't know if Nate will as well. So if you haven't even seen the trailers and you want to go in completely blind, then I probably would advise to stop and maybe check out the first episode. But that said, I usually like to give us a little bit of a structure here. So I'd like to kick things off with initial thoughts. We'll get into performances, and then we'll wrap from there with our score and final thoughts. So initial thoughts. As you were mentioning, Nate, these 4 episodes continue the trajectory of what made season 1 so great, staying in this world of oddball heroes and villains with very mature themes, feeling gritty, feeling very intense at times. But also there's a new level of grief, a new level of, as you were describing before, which I think is very much the theme of this season, coping with one's actions and understanding one's actions as a hero. I think we see that sort of unfold, for Invincible, for Mark, as he kind of reels over what happened in Chicago at the end of season 1. And we see it in other ways for other heroes along the way. And I think that this is very much where we start to tap into the human aspect of these heroes, which really makes them tick. Even for a character like Robot, who predominantly was a sentient being and ends up cloning himself in an accurate form, he's starting to negotiate his own feelings and understanding the concept of how he thinks. So, emotions are new. So it's really great to see these characters evolving, sort of moving into the next step and maybe seeing a little bit more of the emotional toll that being a hero has.
Yeah, there's a significant focus on crisis of identity, which isn't something that's necessarily new to the superhero genre, but I think the way that they handle it this season is really, really well done. And as you said, it's spread across multiple characters. You've got Mark trying to deal with what happened and the mistakes that he made and how he doesn't want to become his father. You've got Debbie, his mom, dealing with
who's not even his hero.
Right. And she's like, my husband's gone, my life was a lie. And you've got Adam Eve, kind of really dealing with the concept of she doesn't want to continue being a superhero, but she still wants to do good. And what does that look like for someone who doesn't want to be a traditional superhero? So I think it's really fantastic the way that they are kind of taking that trope and utilizing it. I love that in these first, this first part, these first 4 episodes, it already feels like we've gotten so much story in just 4 episodes, and not in a way that's overwhelming, but in a way that, like, I will just highlight, I will say episode 3 might be my favorite. It had me checking my watch at times just to sort of, because of how full it felt. And I will remind you listening that if you're watching these episodes, credits when they start, that doesn't really mean anything. Okay. Like, you might get credits literally halfway through an episode to make you think that it's over, but it's just trying to let you know that part of the story in that episode is over. And I love that we're following more than just Mark this season. And I know it kind of felt like, yes, there was more of an ensemble. There definitely was an ensemble cast in the first season, but I really do feel like we are kind of getting a richer story behind Mark, a richer story for his mom, and Adam Eve, and especially with the Adam Eve, standalone thing that we got from Amazon. I think it just helps to enforce her storyline even more within these first 4 episodes. So I'm loving how much we're getting in just 4 episodes.
Yeah, it was nice that, Prime Video decided to put out a, I guess, spin-off, if you will, side story for
an appetizer.
To kind of fill in that void, because, it helps to kind of carry us into this season, while also just kind of loosely filling some gaps. But I think that this season and these 4 episodes, you're absolutely right. There's a lot going on. There's, again, from the trailer, there's multiversal stories. There's stories of grief. There's stories that obviously are going to take place in space and in other planets. And, there's Alan the alien and all of these things. And again, to your point, it's not overwhelming, but I will say there's so much that I don't know what exactly the direction will be. What the next part is going to leave on the table for season 3 and what it's going to resolve is my biggest question, because these 4 episodes do introduce a lot of cool elements that again, don't feel overwhelming. It's just interesting threads that are now spinning off, because season 1 was so hyper focused on Mark and Omni-Man and Nolan and the father-son dynamic, and we're introduced to the whole world of Invincible. We learn about the Guardians of the Globe and the sense of heroes and villains that exist. So season 1 served as very much like an introduction that gave a sense of structure. Here it feels like we are opening the doors now more to the other elements in this world that are going to matter a lot more.
But at the same time, as much as I do feel you on that, but I'm also kind of like really excited and happy about the fact that they are opening it up so much, because even though I can wholeheartedly say after these 4 episodes, I don't think they're going to be resolving all of this stuff within the next 4 episodes. It just makes me excited for a season 3. I think one of the things that I'm really digging with the story, though, is that, like, as you mentioned, you brought up the concept of multiversal stuff that is in the trailer, and I think there's so many elements that, again, they feel a bit parody. They feel like they are pulling from different aspects of the MCU, but at the same time, granted, I mean, the story was written in 2003, up to 2018. So who's to say that maybe these multiversal things aren't just showing up? Now it's not necessarily inspired by what's going on in the MCU, but it's something that just maybe works for them to highlight this season.
I think it's relevancy. It's not a new thing for these comic book stories to involve multiversal qualities. They've been doing multiversal stories for years and years and years in the comics. So for them to find their way on the big screen in some of these larger stories like the MCU, like The Flash, like Spider-Man No Way Home, like even Everything Everywhere All at Once also, right? So it's a very relevant time to tell stories of multiversal quality. Capitalizing on it, like you said, and parodying it to a certain degree, I really do enjoy. And I think that's what this show does really, really well, is it riffs and parodies off of things that we've already seen from Marvel Comics, the MCU, or even the DC extended universe. It's all free game. Like, there's this one character, and I can't remember his name, but there's a Doctor Strange dog figure, which is like so wild, right? Like, it's just, and it's so obvious that his look and feel was totally inspired by Doctor Strange, and they just put a dog head on him. So it's wild.
No, I love him. I think that and to your point on that, I love that this show, it takes those aspects and moves into a different direction. But I also really enjoy that you can have your cake and eat it too. And what I mean by that is it's so elevated from the animated shows we grew up with, in that, like, we get moments of exploring dark and disastrous themes of this world and the trauma felt by Mark and his mom, but then we also get, like, undersea giant monster fights and characters like the Lizard League, or moments with Doc Seismic and the Shapesmith. Like, it's that wonderful sort of balance between the crazy adult themes and the sort of silliness that we love from those animated properties that we grew up with.
Sure. Yeah, it has a level of comedic slapstick humor to it as well, right? To a certain degree. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, it's striking that balance, and that balance with a story about Mark, but a story about the world that Mark is a part of as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the 4 episodes very much do that successfully. It doesn't feel like anything is out of place. I think it all matters. It's just like I was saying before, I'm interested to see what will matter in the following 4 episodes, and what's left on the table for season 3 and what will get resolved. But that said, stylistically, another aspect that I absolutely love is this hybrid American animation style that feels so conventionally familiar to some of the great hero-based animated shows that we've seen come out of America, but there is a attention and focus to some of the anime aspects and sort of the fight sequences and the choreography and the way camera angles are treated. You can see that anime has definitely influenced the look of the show, and that's such a constant from last season. Like, I absolutely loved the look of the fight sequences and the world building elements that are on display in every episode. And in a lot of ways, it's clear that this style and the look really does elevate that mature level of this show to a place where it's confident and it takes itself seriously. We've been blessed this year with crazy animation, some of it being very groundbreaking, but this isn't about groundbreaking animation. This is about using animation to help elevate the story and tell the story in a way that allows them the most flexibility to really bring things to life. Could you imagine trying to do this show or in any capacity as a live action? It just would be way too costly for what they would, and it just wouldn't be done right with the way budget restrictions would probably be for CGI. So again, using the animation as a way to elevate that story experience, flawless, perfect execution.
Yeah, I think the closest comparison visually that I can give it, and coming from me as such a big fan of this series, it had 4 seasons in the year 2000, was X-Men Evolution. I think is the closest look to it that I can find, and I just think I think where it really shines for me, and it did in season 1, it did in the Adam Eve show or movie or spinoff or whatever that was, and here again is the fight choreography. They take the way that they can take original characters, but also characters that obviously are inspired and parodied from other heroes that you might already know, but make them move and fight in such unique ways. The ways these characters use their powers in ways that you wouldn't anticipate or haven't seen before is absolutely fantastic. And I love seeing moments of like characters like Duplicate is such a, obviously Multiple Man is a character that's been around, but seeing the way Duplicate uses her powers to take down a larger enemy and work as a team with just herself, or characters like Adam Eve, that I think is probably one of my favorite characters to watch in combat, the way that she's able to just use such an original power of creating something out of nothing or shifting the atoms of something is just phenomenal. And they all move.
It's a bit like Green Lantern, right? Green Lantern's powers are similar to that.
But I've never seen Green Lantern do some of the things that Adam Eve does in this show, and sure. I think it's just more of what I love from that first season continuing into this season, and I think that's where the animation really does shine for me.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Well, clearly we're feeling great about this show thus far. Let's start talking about these performances before we get into wrapping things up here. So, as I mentioned, there is a lengthy cast list here, and it's massive. And that's not even the entirety of the cast. We do have some special guest stars, which has been documented. This season we are welcoming Tatiana Maslany, Daveed Diggs, Peter Cullen, Cliff Curtis,
dude,
Callista Flockhart, Scoot McNairy, Liam Thompson, Sterling K. Brown, Angstrom Levy, and Ben Schwartz. And then that's to go with the cast that I already outlined. And to hear Peter Cullen's voice show up here, pretty iconic. It was like immediate, oh, that's Optimus, not a problem. Ben Schwartz, again, he's one of the voice actors. When you hear his voice, you're like, that is 100% him. He has done a lot of animation. But I'm gonna call out Steven Yeun. The dude is fantastic as an actor, and he really brings and he translates his acting ability so well through voice, and it's great. It's more acting than it is voice acting, if you will. There's not a character that he's putting on. He's really riffing on, I think, his own internal emotions and kind of putting himself in the character's headspace, and you hear that through his voice and the confidence and how he reacts to things, and how he gets angry even. It's fantastic. So yeah, he's so well, he does such a good job in the show.
Yeah, you can feel the emotion in his line delivery, as you said, when he's angry or when he's frustrated or when he's like straight up just bewildered by what he's experiencing, because there's moments where he's just like, what is going on, and you can feel that right alongside with him. I think if I do ever get around to reading the comics, I don't think I'd be able to hear any other voice than his as Mark Grayson. I think for me, a huge standout, and we were already talking about her character, but I think Sandra Oh as Debbie Grayson, we get a lot more of her this season, and she is showing, when we talk about the human side of the effects that superheroes can have on a person, she is getting to sort of live that, and we really get to explore her dealing with the ramifications of sort of even after everything that's happened, she's still trying to have a normal life with her son, and it's heartbreaking, and you get to see her suffering, and they really show it, and I think it's delivered phenomenally through her voice performance. It just delivers and brings like that maturity for a genre that's already explored so many different themes, but here we really really get to see how it affects the human side of the people surrounding these heroes. And Sandra Oh, come on. Come on.
Yeah, so
Unreal.
good. Yeah. Zazie Beetz,
Yes.
I loved her in season one. I think she's great in this season. She obviously has a lot more perspective, knowing the truth about
Thank goodness.
Mark's life, and even in season one, it was like, oh well, I already knew,
Hmm.
right? Just because of how weird he was acting, and she was able to accept it. You've called her out numerous times, and she's definitely someone that is a highlight from these 4 episodes, and that's Adam Eve, Jillian Jacobs. She is also sort of matching Steven in that you hear that sense of emotion coming from her line delivery of when she's angry, or when she's really feeling a moment, or when she's scared. Like there's the voice acting in this is very 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 good.
So good. So good. I
Wow.
think I think and I don't think it's a spoiler to say. I mean, the whole cast kills it. I love that you mentioned that with Zazie, and with Amber, we get to sort of see more of her, and also get to she's unlocked essentially, right? We
Yeah,
get to see her have these true interactions with these additional characters, and with Mark, of course. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that executive producer Seth Rogen returns as Alan the Alien, and delivers, I would say, probably my favorite moment of this season so far. I think he's fantastic, and it's such a different character than we're used to seeing from Seth Rogen. There's still a little bit of that sort of from season one, we had that wonderful in the finale, the sort of sit down with him, and Mark and him having that conversation without actually speaking, and through their minds and whatever. But and there is that sort of level of relaxed that he does have at times that you would expect from a Seth Rogen character, but at the same time, he's just so different. And I think that's the other aspect of animation. You called out, Justin, earlier, the idea that they can do so much more with animation. These actors get to play characters that we would have never really expected, which I think is another wonderful aspect of this being an animated show.
for sure. Yeah, and also even just the idea too that there's like there's such a honesty in terms of casting the voice and having the character be somewhat in relation to the voice actor. But to your point, Alan the Alien is obviously a very unique character,
Hmm.
and to have someone like Seth Rogen voice that character is great. And yeah, he's definitely a highlight for these 4 episodes that delivers.
If I could also I know we're talking about voice actors, but in terms of things we hear, I do want to shout out John Pisano, who is the composer for this series, who's just giving an excellent score. I think he just gave us a phenomenal score for Insomniac Spider-Man 2, which he does. The themes are still ringing in my head from playing it. But this guy knows how to write for superhero stories, and this season is no different. I think, and every single time you get the slap of the, the Invincible title card, and the theme comes in, you feel that rush, you feel that like sort of let's go energy, and yeah, I think John is just doing a great job as well.
Yeah, again, the entire production itself, there's just such a commitment to getting it done right.
Hmm.
And again, we loved season one, and it seems like season two is definitely that of a great continuation. Was there anything that didn't work for you, Nate? Like, was
No,
there any issues? Okay.
I don't.
No, I totally get you. I think I feel the same. With that in mind, though, let's move into giving our final thoughts and our score, which will be on a scale of 1 to 5 alien insect beings.
Whoa.
Yeah, so 1 to 5
Okay.
alien insect beings.
I'm
Yeah,
glad you
we're
didn't
just gonna
say
be.
like dead people.
Yeah, exactly. I will preface, obviously, this score is in relation to just part one.
Yes.
These first 4 episodes, just our overall feeling, how we felt. So yeah, final thoughts and score. Nate, go ahead.
Well, yeah. So 4 episodes in, as I was saying, I can't think of anything I didn't enjoy about these 4 episodes this season so far, other than the only thing is I just want more. and I know that's not something that you can really complain about. It's great when you want more, and I know they're going to deliver. I think that's, we get a lot in these first 40-minute, long episodes, or 40 something minute long episodes, but they set up so much. We have to wait till next year to see the rest, and I'm already just I can't wait. It's so damn good. It's everything you loved about the first season, but now, kind of like Amber, it's now opened up in a way that we really get to see these characters, and we get to sort of see how they deal with loss, the ramifications of what lies ahead of them, the identity crisis that they all have. Even a character, a certain, well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a certain character that I was not expecting to be following their storyline this season, and it's super interesting. Anyways, I think we even do get a bit of a bottleneck episode inside of another episode that is somehow still so rewarding, despite the fact that it's stuffed inside another story. We get some fantastic twists that will have you scratching your head and begging to see the rest. This is the Saturday morning cartoon for everyone who grew up with Saturday morning cartoons grown up, and it's dark, bloody, and deep, and I can't wait for the next 4 episodes. I'm giving Invincible season 2, if you haven't already realized, part 1, a very solid 5 out of 5 alien insect beings.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I think the series, again, continues to masterfully blend intense action and complex character developments, creating, I think, an overall just a captivating and an emotionally charged narrative perspective that lives in the realm of animation. I think that I really love about this. What sets it apart is obviously the idea, as we were talking, the show's ability to sort of subvert superhero tropes, which gives us these shocking twists like the end of episode 1 in season 1, and challenging moral dilemmas. And I think the show continues to do that with richly layered characters. Their growth throughout season 1 into season 2 has me excited for what's next in their journey. And the voice acting featured by this entire cast is so well done, with performances that really just highlight the emotional resonance that each of these characters are going through. As I was talking about before, the animation style is striking, and I absolutely adore that they've kept a consistent look from season 1 to season 2 that just makes it so vibrant, yet, and spectacular, with great attention to detail in terms of the world building elements. And the fight sequences are just so dark and bloody and intense that they feel like R-rated versions of Dragon Ball Z to a certain degree. Like they're so violent. And I love that. So, again, I don't think this show is afraid to explore the thought-provoking themes and its willingness to sort of push boundaries and subvert expectations and keep things dark, and really change what people think of the superhero genre. And I feel like season 2 just continues that so well, and it had me excited for part 2. I'm definitely excited, and to your point, Nate, I'm excited for what can happen for a season 3 even. I want to see more. It's just storytelling at its best, showcasing what is possible from animation, as both entertaining and just profoundly thought-provoking at times, just in terms of how it really wants to go about talking about these heroes and the dilemmas and the sense of emotion that this season has started with. It's very, very, very good. Episode 4 for sure is going to be, people are gonna, like, I think even Kirkman said, like, people are gonna need to like take a break after episode 4. So it's definitely, it was nice that this 2-part mentality was designed in a way that is to allow the audience to sort of sit with it. But that said, we got to keep going here, right? Like, we can't, like, this was a big gap, and we were talking about it offline. COVID probably played into that. Actors' schedule, I'm sure, played a huge part in that. The animation studios and whatnot, their efforts. This isn't easy stuff to turn out. We understand that. But when something is working and you put a really big gap in between the first and second, you want to strike when the iron's hot. If I think that's the term, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just feels like there was a big lapse here, and we're catching up. And I just hope that keeps going, with the trajectory of getting these out in, within a year and a half. You know what I mean? Not like 2 years or longer, but like a year and a half. Let's get, another, full 8 episodes out that still has the attention to detail in terms of writing. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm giving this a 5 out of 5 because this is just some top tier, badass, in your face storytelling done with some incredible animation. And if you were a fan of season 1, you are going to enjoy season 2. It is bloody. It is vulgar. It is everything you loved about season 1. So
yeah, and just to your point about sort of the length of time in between, I would recommend, I rewatched the finale going into this. I might even recommend going so far as to saying, if you have the time, watch the first season and then get started with these 4 episodes as they start to come out.
Well, just on that note, Prime Video did post a season 1 recap. It's an 11-minute video.
Okay, that's not.
So
not
if you watched season 1 and you don't want to necessarily go back and watch it all, it definitely gives you a Cole's notes of it. I'll tell you what. I'll put it in the show notes.
There we
go.
You
have it there.
We'll do the work for you.
We'll put it there. So then that way, might as well. It makes a lot of sense.
Jeez.
But that's it for our spoiler-free review for Invincible season 2. Again, a huge thanks to our friends at Prime Video Canada, who were kind enough to give us these 4 episodes. We enjoyed our time with it, as you can clearly hear. And Invincible does drop on Friday. Remember, it is the first half of an 8-episode season. So this is part 1. Part 2 will be coming out later in early 2024. Weekly episodes. So for the next 4 weeks, you're going to get it. And that's the other thing. It's going to be interesting to see what the dialogue is online with Twitter and what people are talking about. So it's exciting. It's definitely exciting. But yeah, that's it. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, feel free to subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. And hey, if you wouldn't mind, there might be a little option there to write a review or give us a 5-star. Please do. Please. We would love to know. Hey, if it's not working for you, let us know. We would love to hear some feedback, and you can do that. And if you want, you can write into us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to us on the app formerly known as Twitter at GeekcentricYT, or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric, and Threads at wearegeekcentric. Keep in mind, we have a ton of great episodes out right now, like our most recent spoiler-free review for David Fincher's latest film, The Killer. We also have spoiler-free reviews for the Goosebumps episodes 1 to 5. We wrapped our watch club for Ahsoka, so if you're still catching up on that, we got that. We also have our spoiler-free review for Marvel Studios Loki season 2 episodes 1 to 4. But we will be posting our spoiler-filled discussion tomorrow for our listeners, so that they'll be able to enjoy and get ready as we talk about all things Loki, because everyone's been talking about it. And we got the first 4 episodes on a spoiler-free basis, and now that we're all caught up, we're ready to chat about these last 4 episodes. So it's going to be a good time. We also have a bunch of interviews available both on podcast feeds and on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric, like my latest interview with Dan DeLue, director of Loki season 2 episode 2, as well as I'll be posting my interview with director Kasran Farhani of episode 3, and costume designer Christine, which will also be on YouTube and on podcast feeds as of tomorrow. But we got so much more in the works. November is going to be very busy leading into the holidays, and then boom, end of the year. But until then, Nate, thank you for joining me for this Invincible size spoiler-free review. And as we say,
love ya.
Peace.